Uh,
Cloud, I think.
That's what I did. All right. So tonight we're lucky to have Fred Richards, and he's the new executive director for Timucuan Parks Foundation. And Fred grew up in Pennsylvania and spent a lot of time outdoors camping and hiking the Appalachian Trail. And he's a passion. This passion has been constant throughout his life. He has a bachelor's degree in recreation and leisure management and gained experience as a wildlife biologist at the Bureau of Land Management in Wyoming. Oh, that sounds fun. Let's see. So he's been in the nonprofit sector for quite a while, working with Kids in Peace as a recreation counselor. Before joining Timucuan Parks Foundation as executive director in December of 2024, Fred served as director of development at the Mission House and nonprofit dedicated to helping the unhoused and uninsured. During his tenure, he significantly increased funding by over 300% and was recognized by Bank of America Neighborhood Builders Award. Wow. Let's see. So he's had a 30-year career in nonprofit leadership. He's been the vice president of Elder Source, vice president of community services at Goodwill. And the list goes on. Fred, you've really made a lot of great accomplishments in your career. And I'll just go on to the topic of the presentation is to learn more about the Timucuan Parks Foundation and their role as a support and friend organization for our national, state, and local partners. That would be National Park Service, State of Florida, and the City of Jacksonville. And with that, Fred, I guess I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully it works. Let's see. You see it?
Let me stop sharing mine first. There we go.
Okay. You got it?
I can see it.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. This unusual hour, 6:30. I appreciate it. Hope you had your dinner and nobody's hangry. And we can get through this presentation without any problems, right? But I want to thank you all for being here. You know, very similar to what you're doing at Audubon. We're connecting people to nature. That's what we're doing. So I think we share a similar vision. Obviously, Elizabeth is working for us part-time now, and we're lucky and fortunate to have her and her knowledge and also her involvement with Audubon. So I'm just really pleased to be here tonight. I'd love to learn more about your organization. Maybe I should get involved in the future. I'm starting to really love my birds. In my backyard, I see so many different migratory birds, and the painted bunting a couple times, the female and the male. The wildlife here, and especially the birds in this area, it's just amazing what we have in our backyard. So I'm going to share a little bit more of that as we go. Feel free to ask questions if you want to. I know you can ask via chat. If I don't have an answer to it, I'll make sure that I find an answer to it. So I'm going to start with our mission. Basically, the Parks Foundation, we've been around since 1999, so not quite as long as the Audubon Society, right? 1935, that's impressive. 1999, so 26 years. And we started in 1999 with the vision of our mayor, John Delaney, at the time, he really had a vision of really conserving and preserving as much property and land as possible before it could be bought out by the builders. Through this vision, he partnered with us, and we partnered with the City of Jacksonville, an organization called ETM, who helped us secure some of the Florida Communities Trust grants. We managed over $47 million during that time frame from 1999 to 2009. And right now we have over 25 parks under our management, and we partner, obviously. We are a support group for the national parks. And boy, do they need our support more now than ever, with quite a few cuts, and they're seeing a lot of shortages with the resources. So that's where we come in to help these partners. So the Florida State Parks is another partner in the City of Jacksonville. And we also partner with the Florida Land Trust at time to time, working on different projects together and different events. As far as community impact, our community impact has grown from 2024 to 2023. If you compare those years, just last year, we finished 35% more volunteers than the previous year. Our park access to our programs increased by 441% from 2023 to 2024. We tracked over 4,500 people that went through our parks. The previous year was 843. Now, I must mention, I think we're just getting a little bit better at tracking and recording. I don't think we served that many more during that year time frame, but we're getting better at capturing the data and the information. And I think it's extremely important. How do you show your community impact if you're not quantifying the impact that you're making? Our programs and events, we went from 89 programs in 2023 to 119. So we're doing more. We're doing more with less. We still have, we only have about 1.5 FTEs, full-time or employees that work for us. Everybody else is a contract worker. You may know Felicia Boyd and Elizabeth. They're both doing contract work for us out in the programs. Felicia does an amazing job. I don't know how she does it. She works till 1 o'clock at night and then she's back up at 7 a.m. the next day. But we're fortunate to have her, and we're fortunate to have Elizabeth as well. They're doing an excellent job getting people out in our parks. You can see some of the pictures there. Health benefits. So this is something that we're really focusing on. We're looking at healthy living initiatives and healthy park initiatives. We think it's really important to look at some of that empirical evidence out there and some of that research. I used to work in the mental health field as a director of programs and services, so I do understand the benefits of getting outdoors. There's no cost, there's no medication, but the restoration that it can do and the healing properties that nature offers are amazing. There's a lot of empirical evidence and a lot of studies out there. For instance, visiting forest parks can increase anti-cancer proteins and has a preventive effect on human cancer generation and progression. Numerous studies show that as we grow older, our health may decline from a lack of exercise, loneliness, and isolation. And that's important. So what we're looking at is different populations, and the senior population is one that we're trying to engage more. I'm writing grants right now to try to secure funding so we can bring about 6 to 10 groups of seniors into our parks through various activities like yoga, hikes in history, art projects, and various other things that we can do, low impact exercises that actually have been proven to restore and regenerate physical and mental health. Wellness in the wild, just more studies. There was a 2021 study from the University of Michigan that revealed that exposure to nature can alleviate symptoms of depression and anxiety for children and adolescents. And that's why we're engaging the underserved youth in our parks. And I'll explain more of that later, but we're partnering with different organizations like Blue Star Families and the Foundation Academy to really bring the youth out to these parks. For a lot of these children, this is the first time they've actually experienced the outdoors. Even though they've lived in this city, they grew up in this city, it could be transportation barriers or cost barriers or just barriers where their family's not able to have the time to really spend with them and take them to the park. So that's something that we're trying to do. And exposure to natural environments does restore mental fatigue and attentional capacity. So there's been various studies that have proven that the attention and the focus of children and their grades have improved from just spending a little time outdoors, something that we probably took for granted in the 70s. Now we're having a whole generation of individuals that are stuck on computers or on phones, and they're not engaging with the outdoors, and they're not getting the therapeutic values that we have. It's really no surprise with everything that's been going on with COVID and the economy that children are suffering as well as adults with depression and anxiety. So this is a really inexpensive way to get people engaged and to get healthier in our community. So it's something that we're really pursuing. Here's a map of all of our parks, pretty impressive. You can see there's a lot on the east side and there's some on the west side. And I'm going to talk about some of these parks today, just a few. We'd be here all night if I went through all of them, but as you can see, it's pretty impactful. And these are all different partnerships. For instance, Cedar Point Preserve and Cedar Point. Cedar Point is actually Cedar Point is run by the National Park Service, and Cedar Point Preserve is the city. But in Seven Creeks area, and you can see this is like all the Seven Creeks area, you can see my arrow. We just had our big March event there on March 8th, where we had over 1,200 people come over to the March 8th Seven Creeks Fest. And I'll talk about that a little bit more too. But you can see the different parks that are involved in there. These are all free parks, but yeah, it's a combination of different people, different organizations that are involved in the Seven Creeks area, right up in here. So we have the city, we have the partnership with Florida Land Trust. We also have a partnership with Florida Parks and the National Park Service, all in one area working together collaboratively. One of the things I wanted to mention, and I share this with a lot of people, and I was quite astounded to realize this when I started, is that I had no idea that Jacksonville has the largest urban park system in the contiguous United States. What does that mean? Within the 48 states. The only one that surpasses us is Alaska. So it's quite impressive. And it's something I don't think we're touting enough. We're not telling the public about it enough. So we're getting out there and trying to do more with that, but please share the information. If you were to become a member of ours, we provide you with this map, and you can actually access it and use it. You can see there's so many different things that you can do in these multi-use parks, but it's quite impressive when you think about the history and the years, and also the diversity of use of these parks and the ecosystems that we have. Now I'm going to get into parks. You probably are all pretty well acquainted with our parks, but in case you're not, I'm just going to talk about a few of them. I talked about Seven Creeks originally. Seven Creeks has Betts Tiger Point Preserve, Bogey Creek, Cedar Point Preserve, Cedar Point, Jim Wingate, and the Pescatello Island, which is being managed by the North Florida Land Trust. But to get into Cedar Point Preserve, you can see these pictures are by Will Dickey. Will Dickey's a local photographer. He also did a special places book for us, and you can see some of those pictures in that. And if you have questions about that, you can find the special places book. If you were to go to our website under support, you'll see that you can actually purchase the book. It has many beautiful pictures in it, a lot of history and information in it as well. So the Cedar Point Preserve, just to give you an overview, it's 618 acres of oak hammocks, pine flatwoods, and freshwater marsh systems. It's got 7.3 miles of trails, and it connects to the National Park Service's Cedar Point, which offers an additional 4.4 miles. Not too long ago, they built a bridge there that connects the parks. It's called Cedar Point Bridge. It connects the MPS and the City of Parks, the City of Jacksonville Parks in the Seven Creeks area. So it's quite an interesting collaboration in how these different park services work together to expand the park, and also the available opportunities and recreational pursuits that people can get involved in. At this park alone, there's hiking, there's biking trails, just a variety of different things that you'll be able to do. Scenic overlooks, equestrian trails, and picnic areas also. And you can see there's the biking trail at Cedar Point Preserve. It's a beautiful park if you get an opportunity to go out there before those yellow flies get out there. So the Thomas Creek Preserve, this is a Black Creek system that flows into the Nassau River tributary. It has a boat ramp, kayak, canoe launch, and a fishing pier. And there's no boats over 17 feet that are allowed, so you can still have that kayaking experience without being disturbed or disturbing natural habitat. Little Talbot. I think everybody knows about the Little Talbot, but these are, the thing about Little Talbot and Big Talbot is they're one of the few undeveloped barrier islands that still exist in the state of Florida, one of the few. And I think that's important to recognize. These are untouched by development. You can still experience a little bit of old Florida when you go to these parks. They have white sand and they have rolling surfs, but you also have the eroding sun-bleached roots and fallen trunks of cedar and palm. But here you can do beachcombing, surfing, fishing, kayaking, hiking, and it's run by the Florida State Parks. And the entrance fee is $4 for Little Talbot. This is my favorite park. Now I'm going to tell you, this is my favorite park for a couple of reasons. One, it's just extremely beautiful. Second, it's accessible and close to me. It's right across the street from Fort Caroline Memorial. But the thing I love about the Theodore Roosevelt area, if you haven't been there, you can get into two different areas. There's a trailhead near Monument Road, and then there's a trailhead at Spanish Pond, which is directly across from the Fort Caroline Memorial. But what's great about this park is it's basically, and I shouldn't say basically, it's an archaeological site. There's so much history here. I took a tour with one of the National Park Service's interpretive hikers, and the education and the things that I learned about this just completely amazed me. There's about 13,000 years of human history there, and it's still evident. If you were to walk on these trails, you might see shells, oyster shells piled up maybe 4 to 5 feet. Those are actually areas where the Timucuan Indians used to cook. That's where they would be cooking their oysters or their fish, and you'll still see remnants of some of the materials that they cooked. if you look deep enough in those areas. But what's amazing is there's so much history there. You've had even at that area, at the Theodore Roosevelt area, you've had so many different groups come through there, the Spanish, the French. In fact, the French used to call the bluff the mountain. It was the highest peak. And when the French arrived here in 1526, that was one of the areas that they were looking at. So when you're walking on these trails, you're actually walking in the footsteps of the Spanish, the French, and more importantly, the Timucuan Indians that were there for so long, the indigenous people that were there. They had such an impact in that area, and they were land conservationists themselves. In fact, there's been archaeological finds which show that they've been conserving the land over time, not just fishing in one spot, but moving their areas around quite a bit. So interesting history there. They have found pottery there. They have found other things there as well, but quite an interesting history. And what I'd like to talk about also is Willie Brown. Willie Brown had a cabin there in 1969. Willie Brown, one of the first conservationists in Jacksonville, I would say the first. He could have made millions off that land. He owned all that property in the Theodore Park area. Could have made millions. Had developers asking him to sell the property. He refused to. He actually gave it to the foundation was given to the Nature Conservancy. It was donated in 1969. Donated because this is what he said. This was a quote by Willie Brown. People have to work in the city. They can't live in the woods anymore. There ought to be a place in the woods they can go. He spent all his time there in a very modest cabin. He could have bought more. He could have afforded more. He had a Model T battery that used to keep his electricity on at night. But he was also, he really cared about that land and really cared about how important that was to not only him, but generations to come. And if it wasn't for people like Willie Brown, we wouldn't have that land today. And if you go on the trail, you'll still see remnants of his cabin, just the foundations there. But you can see where he resided. It's a beautiful area, beautiful park if you haven't gone there. Castaway Island Park. This is one of our Healthy Living Therapeutic Park initiatives. We're actually partnering with the city of Jacksonville. We do a lot of repairs there. We also do projects there. We're actually working on a garden at Castaway right now. And Elizabeth, I think she was out there today. But we're beautifying the area, and we're also addressing the homelessness problem there. And we're getting individuals, encouraging them to relocate to other areas. We're going to have the staff from the city of Jacksonville. They're actually going to put a person out there full time. So we can deter some of that behavior. But it's just a beautiful park to go to, and there's so many opportunities for low impact, easy exercise. It's accessible. If you have a disability, there's accessibilities for that. But it's an extremely important park, and we're trying to preserve it and continue to grow it. It has a beautiful education center, a theater-style education center that nobody uses. There's just so many things that we could do there. We're going to continue to look at that. So far, there was about $270,000 that's been secured for park beautification. And there's about $450,000 of unfunded items that we still have to find the funding for to help the park and help the city expand, not only do that, but renovate and still have the aesthetics and the beauty that it offers. This is the old part of the CSX railway line, the Jacksonville Baldwin Rail Trail. This is 14.5 miles of paved paths for walking, jogging, skating, and biking. There's also an unpaved path for equestrian and horseback riding activities as well. Dutton Island Preserve. There's actually two parts of Dutton Island. There's Dutton Island 1 and there's Dutton Island 2. Dutton Island 1, well, both of these parks, they're located in pristine salt marsh ecosystem. So there's a lot of wildlife that you're going to be able to see here. And they also have kayaking trails that you can actually get on. There's also primitive camping that's available at Dutton Island 1. But on Dutton Island 2, you can actually, there's 3 miles of hiking through pine flat woods and live oak hammocks. So there's an opportunity to hike. You can go kayaking here. This is the observation deck that's located on Dutton Island 1. It's a fishing pier and observation deck. As you can see, the kids there are fishing. This is part of one of our groups that we had a junior angler program. I'll talk about that a little bit more too. Catherine Abbey Hannah Park. 1.5 miles of beaches and 450 acres to explore. There's 20 miles of scenic trails for hiking, but there's other activities like mountain biking, kayaking, canoeing. There's 60 acres of fresh water at the Hannah Lake. There's surfing, fishing, picnicking, and camping. There is a cost for Catherine Abbey Hannah. That's $5 entrance fee, but if you're in the military or a veteran, it's 50% off. And you can bring your dogs here on a 6-foot leash. There's also cabins available to rent. The Shady Campground has electric hookups, tables, fire rings, and grills at the campsites. Tents and RVs are acceptable. If you were to do tent camping, it's $18 a day. For an RV, it's $30 a day. And if you wanted to use one of the cabins as displayed in the picture, you have to rent it for at least a minimum of 2 nights, and that is also $30 a day. One of the things we're doing is bringing people out. I talked to you about incorporating or integrating the outdoors with health. And this is one of the things that we're doing. We partner with a local yoga provider, and we're doing healthy living at these parks. So we're taking groups out there, and we're exercising and also integrating nature as a tool for therapy and meditation, and also to reduce blood pressure, improve their physical health and their mental well-being. So we're all looking at that as well. We're actually going to start implementing post surveys, pre and post surveys, to see if there is some effect from being outdoors. Are they feeling a sense of belonging? Has their mental health improved? Are they participating in these outdoor activities more often? But you can see a lot of wildlife here. You have the shorebirds, the alligators, the foxes, and sea turtles from May to October are very common at this park. Now, the Huguenot Memorial Park, this is actually considered by the Duval Audubon Society to be the premier birding site in Duval County. I hope I don't have that wrong. I did a little history and research on it, but according to that group, and your group, I should say, it's considered one of the premier birding sites, and you can see some of the shorebirds there. But the park's surrounded by water. It offers camping, surfing, fishing, kayaking, and nature trails. There's a fee for the park. It's $3 for a pedestrian, $5 for a vehicle. But there's also camping there too. So it was a nature center, an education place. But $23 for tents and $27 for RVs. But there's a big seabird colony here. You can see the laughing gulls, the royal terns, and also the brown pelicans, to name a few. Big Talbot, again, this is one of those undeveloped barrier islands, like Little Talbot, one of the few that remain in Florida. It's actually like going back in time. When you walk on, you can actually experience some of the old pristine Florida and what it would feel like. But this park is famous for its boneyard beach, covered with skeletons of live oak and cedar trees that once grew near the ocean. They actually say the beach, according to one of the historians, that it actually receded about 25 miles. So you can see how much of that wooded area has been lost, but it's still there, as they call it, the boneyard. But you can also picnic at the bluffs, access overlooking water, or go to the boat ramp and do canoeing or kayaking. They also have a paved bike and pedestrian path, and that runs along the East Coast Greenway. Environmental stewardship, the big thing that we do. So we bring people out to the parks for enjoyment, but we also bring them out there to help us preserve and conserve these lands. So you can see we really count on our volunteers. We had 366 unique volunteers last year, providing us with 68 park and trail projects. So maybe it's removing invasive species of plants. Maybe it's improving the trail width, or improving the trail walkability. Plenty of things. We also done post-hurricane cleanups. We do a lot of dune protection. In fact, one Saturday at Hannah Park, we were able to put out 200 posts and ropes to protect those dunes. And we're going to continue to do that to try to protect these natural resources. We have the Kingsley Historic Garden. Talked about the Castaway Garden that we're putting out there that we've been working diligently on the last couple of weeks. And we do trail maintenance at the Tilly Fowler and Hannah Park, just to name a few. Trail exploration, we had 285 volunteers. They contributed over 1,100 hours for us for 51 programs and activities. So these volunteers are crucial. When we bring out youth groups or senior groups, they work with the groups, they work alongside the groups, maybe they're participating with the groups, but it's important because it's intergenerational. We're connecting different generations together, exploring and also appreciating the natural resources that we have out here, hopefully creating generations of advocates for years to come. Youth education, we think it's really important to bring the underserved youth out here to our parks, especially, these underserved youth that live in inner cities or urban cities that don't have the access to transportation, may not get out here on a field school trip, or their parents aren't bringing them here because they're working several jobs. So we have a junior angler fishing program that we offer through our Outdoor Explorers program for underserved youth. But we're working with youth groups like the Blue Star Families, American Heritage Girls, and the Foundation Academy Girls, to name a few. Connecting with the health community. We find this is really important. One of our initiatives is trying to get our medical professionals more involved with our parks. Places in Canada and some more progressive states, they're actually using nature prescriptions. It's something we'd like to pursue. It's a long road, but we're working with UNF also. UNF has their Nature and Health Center, and they're also working with the local medical profession on how do we identify nature as therapy and how do we monitor that? How do we provide a prescription for that? Is it based on frequency, and how do you measure that? So it's a big, arduous task, but one that I think can be accomplished one day with open communication. There's a lot of organizations that are using it in other parts of the country, and it's very popular in Canada. So it's not really a medication prescription, but it's a social prescription that's encouraging the patients to engage in nature so they can obtain some of those health benefits, both mental and physical. Castaway Island Preserve. Again, this is one of the areas that we're really focusing on. This is our therapeutic park. It's just a beautiful picture of one of the overlooks there. But occasionally you'll see like these ramps. We help put some of these ramps in. We also do repairs. So if we see any of the boards lifted up, we're out there doing repairs, us and our volunteers. 270,000 has been secured for betterments, aesthetics and improvements, $450,000 left to raise. But we're looking at that. We're looking at maybe a $75,000 nature-based playground that we're going to pursue, a $3,000 park bench along the trails, and $50,000 to add a shade and seating area for elderly or seniors. To protect their health and also give them places where they can rest as well. Park design, that's the interpretive sign that you're looking at right there. All of them have been unfortunately vandalized, so we're in the process of replacing those and finding a way that we can put in signs that are be a little bit harder to deface. Again, board replacements, this is one of the scenic overlooks as well. And community outreach. This is a big one for us. We're bringing different groups out into the community, getting them involved in different programs. Intergenerational, again, as I mentioned, but we had 106 volunteers. They contributed to 51 programs and activities. And we worked with over 3,800 park participants or people that attended these events. So our volunteers are just crucial for everything we do. We have a very small staff, very lean. So we rely on the volunteers to pick up our resources where we don't have them. Healthy living. Again, this is what we're looking at. We want to increase accessibility and community awareness to our parks, and also tying in and integrating the health benefits that can be achieved. We also want to improve our community partnerships. So we want to expand more with our collaborations, funding entities. What can we do with Florida Blue, for instance? We're looking at that. We want to enhance our education and training, providing people with more trail assessment tools. We want to be looking at defining what the parks offer, looking at accessibility, looking at slopes and grades, making sure that people that have barriers with physical barriers, that they're aware that there's accessibility parks or parks that have accessibility out there. It's important to bring everybody out there. And looking at partnering with like Brooks Rehabilitation, organizations like that to help enhance or provide equipment that could enhance their experience. Urban outreach, as I mentioned, we're engaging with those different groups, our Blue Blue Star Families and so forth, the Academy Foundation. And we want to do more with that. Also, another population we want to engage with is the special needs groups. We want to bring more individuals. I had the fortunate experience of we actually started a camp at Goodwill. It was one of the first free disability camps. It was 3 nights and 4 days. I found a funder out of Texas, and we were able to start that program. It's been in existence since 2012. But for a lot of these individuals, they may have physical barriers. They can't get in canoe. We had adaptive equipment, and we were able to get the people out there. But for a lot of individuals, it was the first time they ever experienced fishing. And for many, to be in a kayak or a boat was something they didn't think would be possible. So it's something I'd like to look at more here. And how do we integrate that? Again, we're looking at accessibility. That's one of our projects and ongoing projects. We want to make sure that everybody can access our parks. Seven Creeks Fest on March 8th. I talked to you about that briefly in the beginning, but I wanted to mention it again. It's a big event. It's a wonderful trifold partnership with the city of Jacksonville and the Florida State Parks, and also the National Park Service. But this past year, we had 1,300 attendees at that event, 126 volunteers, 25 environmental exhibitors, 15 guided hikes, and there were 13 other recreational and educational activities that we participated in. But one of the things we also offered that went in tandem with this is from January 1st to March 31st. If you went to our website and downloaded a 7 Creek hiking spree log, and you went to at least 7 trails in that area, you could be awarded this patch right here. And I was quite surprised. I just wrote my 31st letter today and sent a patch off to somebody. It started off really slow. I think I got my first one in the middle of February or close to the end of February. So within a month, we have 31 people completed. I think by having people attend this event, they were not only exposed to the 7 Creeks recreation area, which is just amazing, and no cost, but they also had an opportunity to learn about the different trails that were available and also the hiking spree that we were on. So again, what was the goal of that? Get people out in our parks, create exposure, create community awareness, a lot of what you're doing as well. If you'd like to join us, membership start as low as $25. They go up to $500. We also have a preservation circle. That's $1,000 and over for donors. So if you feel that you'd like to learn more about us, please go to our programs page or programs tab and locate the membership tab. Donate, fundraise, and advocate. Basically, we're always encouraging people to get involved, but by advocating, we mean getting involved as a volunteer, being one of the 366 volunteers that we're doing community outreach. So we're always looking for more people to get involved, but obviously we're always in need of donations as well. To keep things going, and also to ensure that we have the financial resources necessary to expand these parks when we need to. And as I mentioned, particularly now, you're seeing cuts in staff and a lot of our partners. National Park Service was almost cut in half. So we're looking at how do we fulfill that promise of being a support friend and group to these organizations. What else can we do? So I think they're going to be relying on our resources a little bit more. And when I say resources, our human resources, our people, our volunteers, but also funding to help support some of their initiatives. So I'd like to show you this video if it works, but that will basically be the end of my presentation. I'll take a moment for questions after that, but let's see if I can get this to work. Can you see that?
Nope. Just
You can?
just the screen with the link on it.
Okay, well, I won't be able to probably do that. But anyway, that link, it's a video that they made quite a while ago. I mean, it's a little outdated, but it's just such a wonderful video, and it really showcases and highlights our parks. So if you'd like that link, I can always send it to you another time, or you can cut and paste it right off the presentation. But at this point, that would conclude my presentation. I'm going to stop the share. Are there any questions? You can ask me, you don't have to chat.
Yes, thanks. This is Carol, Carol Bailey White. And throughout, in fact, the whole time I've been aware of Timucuan Parks Foundation, I've been curious about, and I guess I haven't worked hard enough to find this out on my own. But how are the parks that your organization is involved with, how are those selected or determined? Do you know what I mean? Like, it seems like a wide variety of, city, national,
Yeah.
local.
Well, a lot of it was determined during the acquisition phase, where the $47 million of the Florida Communities Trust grants came through. So a lot of it was determined, frankly, by private owners that were contemplating selling their land, and it's kind of whatever fell into, for the most part, whatever fell into our lap, I guess you could say, was what we pursued. But there was also some thought and some strategy being put in those as well. As you can see, there are a lot more parks on the east side than there are on the west side. So um, that's basically how it happened. ETM partnered with us, local group, and they were writing the grants for us. So we kind of adopted those parks as we went through the purchases, but also when the city of Jacksonville, the Florida State Parks, needed help with volunteering or park cleanups, we would adopt the parks that way as well, from what I understand.
Okay. So there are some parks that the organization actually owns. This is what I'm a little bit confused about. Which parks are actually owned? You said purchase, so are there parks that Timucuan Parks Foundation actually owns? That's what I'm
No, we actually
curious.
support, no, the city or the state own them. We support them
Right.
on their efforts.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought, but I wasn't
Yeah.
sure. Okay, all right, well, thank you, that helps.
It's a good question though, Carol. Any other questions at all?
Hey, Fred, this is Pete.
Hi, Pete.
How's your organization run, or do you have like a board of directors or anything?
We do. We have a small board of directors. I mean, we're always recruiting for other board members. So they, as with any nonprofit, a 501c3, they basically guide a lot of the direction, strategy, strategic vision of the organization.
Nice.
Any other questions at all?
So you've been with the Timucuan Parks Foundation now for what, about going on 4 months?
Yeah, I started on December 9th. So it's still all new to me. So that's why when people say, "Oh, I have questions for you," I'm a little hesitant to answer sometimes. I don't know all the answers yet, but I'm still working on it. But yeah, it's been a very brief.
Oh, you're doing a good job already, and
Thank you.
we're lucky to have you.
I'm lucky to be here, and I appreciate that. Thank you for your support as well.
We love our parks. I'm sorry, this is Carol again. I just have to put my 2 cents in. There is nothing like Jacksonville's parks, and yeah, I'm a believer.
I do, Carol.
Not that I need to be a believer, but I've been to every one of the parks that you mentioned, and
Oh my
some of
gosh.
them multiple times. So,
Wow.
well, I've been here a long time. I've had many
That's
opportunities.
great. Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
I guess I was kind of curious, and you being new to the organization may not know exactly, but when the city started buying up the parks, and at what point or how did they decide they needed a foundation to help them take care of the parks? Was that part of the grant, FCT grant requirements or anything, or?
That's a really good question, Pete. I don't know that, but I think it was just I think it was part of so every National Park Service has to have a support group or a friend. And I think it was just a natural relationship that was kind of developed over time because of the purchasing of those properties. But I couldn't tell you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was quite a buying spree of parks and preserves that Jacksonville had back in the late 90s or early 2000s,
Yeah,
whenever that
it
was.
certainly was.
What's let's see. What's your favorite park so far that you've been to?
Oh, well, that's easy. I'd say it's Theodore Roosevelt. I mean, I love the beaches. I love the water, but as far as getting that feel that you're going back in time, you get that feel when you're out in that Theodore Roosevelt Park. At least I do. And now knowing the history there, when you're walking around, you see the shell middens that are piled up, the evidence that people were there before. When you're standing on the bluff and you think of the French calling it the mountain because they were using it as an overlook to see if the incoming ships were coming in and as a protection. And then they built that fort at Fort Caroline. It's just interesting history. You can just feel the thousands of years of presence and history at that place. Quite interesting.
Yeah, those shell middens are pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for Fred?
I like tiger belt because I saw my first American woodcock. Just saying.
Oh,
Where?
Belt.
You're breaking up.
Do you mean Betts Tiger
Oh,
Point
sugar.
Preserve? Is that the one you're talking about, Elizabeth?
Yes, Carol. Yes.
Carol's right.
That's a hard bird to see.
Yes, it is, but it's a good bird.
No kidding. I had to draw it for anyone to believe me. Once I draw it, they were like, oh yeah, that's it.
Are you sure it wasn't a Wilson snipe?
Oh, don't confuse her now. Come on.
No, Lee could attest.
Well, I know, Fred, that we're always looking for partnerships and especially with Elizabeth involved in both organizations. I'm sure we'll be partnering more in the future. And yeah, we should schedule some field trips to some parks and get some more people from the community involved and reach a wider audience.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Yeah, it seems like a good natural partnership to me. Good collaboration. What you've accomplished since 1935, it's impressive as an organization. So,
I think it's 1939.
oh, is it 39? I'll give you 4 years.
And
Still a
they
long
took
time.
apparently they took several years off during World War II.
Oh,
But yeah, that is an impressive length of time for an organization in Jacksonville. I'm sure we're one of the oldest like environmental nonprofits in Jacksonville. Well, with that, I guess we'll wrap things up. Thank you so much, Fred.
Oops.
We really appreciate you
job.
and all your hard work and good things to come, I'm sure. Keep us posted, Elizabeth, on any exciting developments or events we can try to cross-pollinate with.
You got it.
Cool.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody.
Everybody.
Enjoy your dinners.
Bye-bye.
Take
Thanks,
care
bye.
and
Good night.
go birding. Lots of good birds to see. All right.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.